We think that beauty should be something so much happier and more like all-encompassing and embracing than it is. These days, when women hear the word beauty, they immediately start to think about how they need to work to get there. Beauty is so much more broad than what media has made us believe it is. So yes, we're trying to redefine it. Beauty right now, we know, is defined by these really specific ideals about exactly what women should look like. And we know that those ideals are so specific that most people could never get there. They're so narrow. One of the major ideals right now is thinness. So this extreme idea of how thin we can possibly be. And there's constantly this need for weight loss. And they define health even in terms of weight loss and beauty. So this is something that is really problematic for most people. And so what we want to do is step out of these really controlling ideals that are harmful and that are making people sick and hate themselves. And we want to redefine it as something that, like Lexie said, is much more all-encompassing, that more people can get to. Beauty is more than just these ideals that for-profit companies would have us believe they are. We see that this really narrow ideal of beauty that we'll see in billions more images of women in media than we could ever see face to face and look eye to eye. We believe that all of those billions of images create this new idea of normal. Not even just what beautiful is, but what normal looks like. So when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we start to see something that we don't think is normal. Because on TV, you're not gonna see TV, magazines, billboards, you name it. You're not gonna see real women. You see women that have been digitally manipulated, photoshopped every time. That's an industry standard. You see women who have been surgically enhanced. So while they're as thin as can be, they're also curvaceous in all the right places, and that is usually not natural for most women. And we start to see that over and over again. Women will resort to extremes to get there. One of those extremes would be that you see those images and you think, I might be able to get there if I work hard enough. I will stop eating. I will work out as hard as I can, as many hours as I can. I will abuse diet pills or diuretics or laxatives or whatever it is. On the other side of the spectrum, we see women who look at those ideals and think, I can't meet it. It's too far away. Like I will never get there. They feel awful about their bodies and about themselves. They don't respect themselves and they sit on the couch. They don't want to go work out, they don't want to move because they feel bad about themselves. So we see both ends of the health spectrum really coming into play when you see these idealized images. People will say, oh my gosh, you say beauty redefined and all you're saying is you're like promoting obesity or promoting extreme unhealth or sedentary lifestyles. That is not the case. We are all about health here. We know that health looks different for everyone. Health is not about what you look like on the outside. It is about real indicators of fitness. It's about setting a goal and getting there, whether it's running or whatever your fitness goal is. And we know, based on studies, that these really long-term studies, that women that feel good about their bodies, regardless of what their bodies look like, if they respect them as something that can do good things and you're not just to be looked at, those women over time will take better care of themselves. They will not gain unnecessary weight in the future. They will eat healthier. They will go out and do things because they respect themselves. But on the other end of that spectrum, women that don't respect their bodies, that hate themselves, and they get all those messages from media and say, I'm disgusted. They don't respect their bodies and it shows. It reflects in their lifestyle. Over time, they gain unnecessary weight. They lead really sedentary lifestyles, so they sit back and they let life happen, but they don't want to be a part of it because they don't want to be looked at, and that's not health. We see women resort to those extremes of either disordered eating on the one hand or lazy, sedentary lifestyles and horrible eating habits on the other, and that's not health. We know when you get to a place where you can respect yourself, understand your beauty for more than those unattainable ideals that you'll try to strive for, that we can get to a place of real health and real happiness. We know we speak to women primarily, but we also speak to a lot of men, and what we know is that we have grown up in the same media environment. Every guy our age, the little boys growing up, the older men, they are surrounded by these same messages we're getting. We know that so many of those messages revolve around female looks. So in men's media, women are always sexualized. This sexualized ideal has become so normal we don't even notice it anymore. We know that that affects the way men view women. And part of what is so empowering about this beauty redefined message, and part of what is so great about all the men that are involved in it, is that men are starting to see, yeah, like I have been sold a lot of these sexualized ideals, that I am supposed to be seeking after someone that fits certain ideals, and that's it. But any guy knows that once they start seeking that way, they're not going to find a fulfilling relationship. They're not going to fulfill that female, and that female is not going to fulfill them in all the areas they need, because that is just not life. And it is so empowering to be able to really grasp a woman's value outside of what media would tell us a woman is valued for. We know that these controlling ideals that we talk about, like thinness and having long, straight hair, and all these are white ideals. These are ideals that are totally based on this white mainstream and power holders within media that are making these decisions. We know that having long, straight, light-colored hair and light-colored eyes and very thin figures and small features, all of these are really white, like anglicized ideals. That definitely is harmful to women of color, because there are so many women of color, even just within this country and within all cultures of this country, that don't see themselves or people who look anything like them reflected as beautiful, or even in positive ways within media. A lot of times they're not even in relationships. There's all kinds of harmful stereotypes that I know that you guys know about, and particularly this idea of not being beautiful or being attractive in any way is one that can do a lot of damage to young girls. And so we see stars, like, people will think, oh, there are women of color in media that are presented as positive and beautiful people. They would be like Queen Latifah or Beyonce or Jennifer Lopez, people like that. But it turns out, you watch from the beginning of their careers until they get to the height of their fame, they get increasingly anglicized. So even within media, their features are digitally lightened. We call it beauty whitewashed. And so we see, and you know, they've got the fake hair that's long and straight and blonde, and they get light colored contacts. Their skin is either digitally altered to be lighter in a lot of these beauty campaigns that they do, or they try really hard to stay out of the sun and they go through extremes to try to have lighter skin. They also lose a lot of weight throughout their careers too, so they have these really thin and shrinking figures. And then at the same time, you can name a lot of other names of women of color that are featured positively in media, but it turns out they already almost always look like these white ideals. They've got the really thin features and they've got thin figures and light colored hair. That would be people like Halle Berry and Tyra Banks and these fantastically beautiful women, Rihanna and all of them, but they do not represent so many women of these ethnicities that will never see themselves represented positively. We rarely see a dark-skinned black woman or a Latina woman that's not presented outside of these really narrow stereotypes, like just the Latin sex pot ideal. And that is another controlling ideal. You know, just because it's not thinness doesn't mean it's not a controlling ideal that's really hurting us in terms of appearance. We see that they are represented as these just total sex pots, and that that's all they can offer to the world is just being so sexy, and that's all they're valued for. And so these little girls grow up, you know, in any culture, seeing this media that we all share, and they start to value themselves only as these sex objects, and they've got to act these certain ways, and we see that that's exerting a lot of harm on girls these days. So we're all about strategies. We know that there are lots of other organizations that try to teach self-esteem, and a lot of times they don't really have strategies for exactly how to make that happen, but we have a whole list of them on our website, both for girls and women, and a whole list for boys and men also, because it's important to include so many more people in this discussion. So some of those things would be like going on a media fast, so taking a break from media. We know that once we're able to step away, we're able to better recognize the things that harm us and the things that really aren't real, because we are able to look around and see what real beauty looks like, what real people look like, what health actually means, and what it feels like, rather than just how it's represented in media. So other things would be to value, especially little girls and older women in your lives, for more than just what they look like. I know a lot of times we get caught up in just complimenting women for what they look like. A lot of times we'll run into a friend that we haven't seen for a long time, and your first idea is, oh my gosh, you look beautiful, what'd you do to your hair, did you lose weight? And it's always things like that. But we've got to learn really consciously to recognize other things in people. We need to value people for their accomplishments, for their talents, for their character traits that are not based in what they look like. And especially with little girls, we teach them what they're valued for by the ways we talk to them, and we've got to really recognize that. One thing that we are really, we think is really important is that when you're raising little girls or adult women, teen girls, whatever it is, we want to take bodies out of the equation. A lot of times, like Lindsay said, we focus so much on each other's bodies and on our own bodies. We talk about them so much. That's reflected in media that is constantly looking at women's bodies and zooming in on parts of women's bodies. The dialogue revolves around that. We need to get past that. In reality, we need to take bodies out of the equation. And like Lindsay said, compliment each other for more than that. And that's where our billboard campaign comes into play. We've got these billboards across northern Utah. We've got 12 right now that went up last week. They promote positive body image in women, and it's unprecedented. This has not been done before, and we're so excited to do it. And part of what we've done with these billboards is taken bodies out. You drive down the freeway and you see a whole lot of billboards that zoom in on parts of women or cut off their heads completely, and then tell those women what it takes to be beautiful or desirable. It usually involves a painful procedure. It costs a lot of money. And we wanted to tell women a different message. So we decided to take bodies out, and we are holding signs in front of our faces. Got a little 9-year-old girl, a beautiful girl with dark black hair and tan skin, the both of us to begin with, and it will be a lot more diverse in the future. Yeah. We could only start with 4, and we wanted to be on them too. But we have only our eyes looking out at drivers. So using a for-profit medium that has never been done, nothing like this has ever been done, we take bodies out and show eyes, so that we can tell women positive messages like, there is more to be than I can be. The one I'm holding says, you are capable of much more than being looked at. We so believe that. Lindsay says, if beauty hurts, we're doing it wrong. And the little girl, Olivia, hers says, your reflection does not define your worth. And we love sharing those messages. It's a beautiful way to remind women, just for a second when they drive down the freeway, and men, and boys, everyone, that women are worth so much more than just being looked at. We are redefining beauty, not in this really ideal way so that we can say, you're beautiful just the way you are, but so that we can get to a point teaching media literacy to a country that has not been taught media literacy, so that we can read and understand all of the messages that we get in media. Studies show that we are being bombarded with media constantly, literally every waking minute of our lives for so many of us, especially little kids growing up. And we don't teach kids how to really understand and critically interpret what that media is doing and what kind of messages it's selling for a lot of money. So that's what we do. Beauty Redefined is about understanding what is real and what is not real. And when we get that, we take our power back. We are driven by the idea that women are capable of so much more. We understand we have a ways to go. We haven't met full equality, and we can get there. We believe that we are capable of so many good things in this world, a world that needs us. And that world needs us to not be so self-conscious and self-consumed with all of these little issues that don't mean anything in the long run, that we don't get on to those more important things. And we are all about reminding women how valuable they are. So I'm Lindsay Kite, and this is my twin sister Lexie Kite, and we run Beauty Redefined, and our website is beautyredefined.net. We also have a Facebook fan page at Beauty Redefined that you can like us on Facebook.